in Tampa, Florida for the GOP convention, talking to Joel Arends for Veterans for a Strong America. Joel, good to meet you, sir.
Good to meet you. Thanks for having us on.
Is America not strong right now?
It's not. What you see is a president and a White House who are working to actively weaken America through their policies. Sequestration is going to take 200,000 troops off of the rolls. It's going to leave them unemployed. It's going to leave 1 million Americans unemployed. Good blue-collar manufacturing jobs, we're going to lose those because of sequestration and the budget cuts that President Obama signed into law. Also, what you see right now that's weakening us is all of these national security leaks that are coming out of the White House. Absolutely leaving us safer or less safe and more vulnerable to to action on the part of our adversaries.
When your opponents or supporters of President Obama call this swift voting, when you do with these ads, what's your response?
My response is, number one, he's not a veteran. You can't swift vote him. But if that's where we want to go, here's what I have to say to the president. He needs to stand down on this effort. Credible veterans are coming out and exercising their First Amendment rights on this issue, and this is what the Obama White House does. They will smear, they will play hardball, they will do anything it takes to delegitimize their political opponents. And frankly, what that does is it takes all of our eyes off of the real substantive debate, which is him refusing to want to appoint a special counsel to investigate the leaks, and then also him refusing to want to invest properly in the military.
When people hear about this, of course, NRA News, very passionate, very pro-military. When people hear your message, what could and should they do to help out in your effort, even if it's not political, just to help when it comes to a strong America? What should our listeners and our viewers be doing?
Here's what they can do. They can go to our website, veteransforastrongAmerica.org. They can sign up to vote. They can register to vote if they haven't done so already. What they also need to do is they need to enlist one more veteran or one more friend to also be able to vote. They've got to get people out to the polls. That's their civic duty. And frankly, we as veterans also have a civic duty to speak out. We have a civic duty to speak out on these issues, and we want to encourage our fellow Americans to take action. Whether they're going to support a Democrat or a Republican, that doesn't matter to us. We want them to support people who support policies that encourage and support a strong military.
If you had to pick a top three of what we need to do, your top three issues, just a real quick sentences, what would they be?
We need to invest more in the military. 5% of GDP is what we need to invest in our military, so we've got a strong, safe homeland. Second thing we need to do is we need to stop politicizing the military and these leaks. Got to appoint a special prosecutor in order to find out who did criminal wrongdoing in the White House. Third thing we need to do is we've got to stop this administration from trying to suppress the military vote. In Ohio, they're trying to politicize the issue. They're going into. President Obama is the only commander-in-chief in the history of the republic to go into court and say there was no legitimate justification for giving reasonable voting accommodations to our troops. That's ridiculous.
Expand on that some more, because the story is just amazing. What was the genesis of the story?
Well, I think, look, you have a president and a White House who are scared. They've got a swing state in Ohio. It's a very close election right now. 1 percentage point is what the polls are telling them. So they want to find every way possible to be able to get more of their people to the polls. The problem is, the Ohio legislature, which has the ultimate authority on this issue, said that they are not going to allow early voting with the exception of military voters. And they have the right to do that. The Supreme Court has ruled on 3 different occasions that there is no right, no constitutional right to early voting or in-person absentee voting. And so the White House is going beyond those Supreme Court decisions. They're walking into a federal court and they're asking the judge to make law now. They're asking him to legislate from the bench just because they don't like what the Ohio legislature and the Ohio governor signed into law.
I mean, I haven't served myself, but so thank you for your service to our country. But just hearing that alone, that if I was a veteran, knowing that people in the military, they want to suppress the vote of the military, I'd be furious. I would be on the phone immediately.
Absolutely, and the other thing that this Justice Department is doing is they're not actively trying to prosecute these types of cases. The MOVE Act, which was signed into law by the President in 2010, requires that states have 45 days to send our troops absentee ballots. But what the Justice Department is doing is giving waivers to certain states, allowing them to not have to send the ballots out with that amount of time. In 2004, I received my ballot after the election. I wasn't allowed to vote in that election. Now, thankfully, I was serving in Iraq at the time. I went home because of my daughter's birth, and I was allowed to vote in person as a result of that. But how would I feel? I'm out there on the front lines trying to support the country and accomplish our mission, and what's happening is not being allowed to vote. And when you have an administration who's not backing that up and putting pressure on the election officials in all the different states to enforce the law, what kind of message does that send to the troops out in the field?
Last question, Joel. Since we're on NRA News, I want to ask you a Second Amendment related question. Your thoughts on the disarmament of troops on bases, and also on efforts to keep veterans disarmed, not being able to keep their guns or not being able to get their guns. It would seem to me that this is probably the most competent users of firearms, and why they can't be carrying on bases doesn't make a lot of sense.
It's absolutely ridiculous. We need the law changed, or we need the policy changed. We've got to have regulations changed to allow them to carry on post. You saw what happened with Major Nadal Hassan on Fort Hood. If someone would have been armed. Now, I understand the need to keep good order and discipline in the ranks and not necessarily carrying while you're in uniform, but we have the best trained, most competent force in the history of the world, and I don't understand why you can't have men and women who are trained with firearms. That's their job, to shoot a firearm. I don't know why they can't have a firearm while they're on post.
And also, most amazing thing to me is we're in Northern Virginia, and at the Pentagon, they have a side police force. They don't even patrol the Pentagon themselves. It's mind-boggling.
What kind of message does that send to our troops? Right. They go out, they train on ranges, they fire every kind of caliber weapon there is out there, but then they're told by lawmakers and by policymakers, no, you are not going to be allowed to carry a weapon. It just sends the wrong message to our troops, and they've got to be able to carry, because it's factually proven. We know the statistics say that you are much safer when you're carrying a firearm. And look, Major Nadal Hassan, I mean, that is a perfect example of not being able to defend ourselves, and we would have been able to had someone been armed.
Jill, give me the website one more time.
veteransforaStrongAmerica.org. They become a Twitter follower at V4SA.
Perfect. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.